We also have a crazy idea about Nick filming National Treasure 3, and he believes that the treasure map is real.
I'm sure that you've told the story of the genesis of this idea, but can you just walk me through the concept of making a movie about Nicolas Cage? How did it all begin?
Kevin and I were making a television show at the time, and we're a little disillusioned with that process and how it was working out, and we just wanted something that made us happy. And we had this idea of writing a movie about Nicolas Cage, like having to become the hero that he was in the late 90s, 2000s in movies in order to, quote unquote, save his family. And we built the idea around that, like where Nicolas Cage potentially was and in his life. And the idea of him playing himself sort of made us laugh, made us happy.
I think it was also quickly just that as we were getting into the writing and into the character, what was so fun about it is that I think Nick's spirit is like kind of contagious in that he just doesn't give what anybody thinks, And so that was like a nice inspiration for Tom and I at that point in our careers to just go, you know what, screw it. Let's write a movie where Nick Cage plays Nick Cage. And even though we don't know Nick Cage, this is something Nick Cage would do. And so it was like just a who cares rebel move. Let's see what happens.
So when you're back there, you're like, we're going to write a movie about Nick Cage. Where is Nick Cage during this? He has no idea, or he's involved at this point?
We're thinking a lot about Nick Cage at this point. Nick Cage is not thinking about us. We don't know him. We've never met him. And in fact, we're writing a script and going, I think deep down inside, we had this really strong, I think, conviction that there was no chance in hell he was ever going to say yes to this. But we were having such a good time doing it. It was making us happy. It was pulling us out of, creatively where we were and putting us in a new place. And we thought, okay, I think we're on the right path. But no, he didn't know. He wasn't attached. We knew at some point we had to give it to him. And so we did the research and mind interviews and, video interviews that he would do and for things that felt like Nick, the cadence of his voice, and then eventually had to, give him the script.
Yeah, so this whole thing is just contingent on Nick Cage participating. Like, it was never going to be anybody else.
The only idea that was floated around, which was, I think Kevin Turin, who was one of our producers, had it, was that if Nick says no, we should try to get like a super high-end actor like a Christian Bale or Daniel Day-Lewis to play Nick Cage as Nick Cage in prosthetics, Nick Cage prosthetics. But no, there was no real backup.
When you go to pitch this idea to Nick Cage, how does that go? Who do you talk to first? How do you get to Nick Cage?
Well, you talk to his agent and you talk to his manager, Andrew Finkelstein and Mike Nylon, the manager who ended up being a producer with Nick on the movie. You go to them and they read it and they were like, oh, Jesus, like this is the kind of thing I think you get fired for giving a client. So, they were like, they liked the script, I think to their credit, but to their credit, they also were protecting their clients and saying, I don't know, there's a few things in here so we filed down a couple edges on certain character things that might have potentially bumped him. And then at that point, we just had to, we said we could give it to Nick right now. And they were up for that. But the thing that Kevin and I had talked about, and this is coming out of my independent film background in New York, I said, we need to get an actual offer behind this thing, a financial offer to Nick. And so we shopped it around to producers, financiers, studios, everyone. And eventually kind of one by one, they started coming on. And they all wanted to make it, which we were like tremendously surprised by. But at a certain point, they're going, okay, if we're going to make this movie and do this, we'll make an offer to Nick. Nick knows about the project, right? He's attached if he gets the right thing. And we said, that's the only issue that we're having is that, like, no, he does not know about this. And he might be deeply offended by it. So we're going as far down the line with them as we can to try to have as much leverage as possible to get Nick to take it seriously.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I like to have everything in a pretty package before I present it to the person so they have just like the best opportunity to say yes.
Yes, the best possible chance, because we knew the likelihood was not, we were realists in a way. We knew it wasn't
And
super high.
I think there had been, there had been projects like this. I mean, not exactly like this, but scripts where Nick Cage plays Nick Cage, and so I think there was a wariness among his representation of, he had seen those before and hadn't been interested, and why was this going to be any different?
Yeah, they could have that Neil Patrick Harris moment. It's like, well, throw that in the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Those words were probably said.
So you actually get to Nick Cage at this point. What was your first interaction with him like? Was there anything that surprised you about him?
Yeah, I mean, it was at the Pacific Dining Car in downtown. Rest in peace, Pacific Dining Car. And Nick shows up, and it's sort of shocking to us because he's just in jeans and a t-shirt, and he looks like a normal guy, like us. And he just said, this is where Humphrey Bogart used to come and drink martinis when he didn't get a role, or whatever. And for us, it was like, okay, this guy is totally. And he sits down, and he just wanted to, suss out our intentions. And we had this really smart, thoughtful, kind of intellectual conversation about the underpinnings of the script, and then kind of the tone of the movie that we wanted to make. And we realized this guy is just a cinephile. He loves talking about movies and performance. He loves talking about story. And, he presents as this crazy wild man. But when he actually shows up, he's a very thoughtful, kind of quiet, polite guy.
Kevin, did anything change once, after you were done this process? Because it seems like a lot of what you guys went through kind of ends up in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one big change that Nick wanted and that we understood was that in the first act of the film, he has to play a really kind of narcissistic, bad father. And I think, in our original version, he was an absentee father, and he was really disconnected from his daughter. And Nick, for a couple reasons, said to us, like, I don't think is going to work, because I'm just not this guy, and I don't really want to go there in this way. Like, I'll go there with the financial stuff and sort of all the stories you've read about me in the press, but I've been involved in my children's life, so I don't want to go there. But he also knew that, the audience wasn't going to go along on a ride with a character who was like a complete absentee jerk father. So I think, having done so many films and being, as Tom said, as good as he is with story and character, he knew, this you have to like this guy. So the solution was, he was a father who is trying to connect with his daughter, and the way he's trying to do it is to mold her into a little version of himself, which I think is a more interesting kind of thing anyway.
I love how original this movie is. And, we talk about, there's been a big conversation where it's like, a lot of the movies that get made now are blockbuster, superhero, Star Wars, et cetera, et cetera. What was the biggest hurdle for you guys in just getting this movie made? Was it getting Nick Cage on board, or was it something else?
No, it was getting Nick Cage on board. And once you get Nick Cage on board, what you find, I think, which shouldn't have been surprising, is that there are so many Nick Cage fans, other actors, who said, I want to work with Nick, I'm on board. And, from Pedro Pascal to Tiffany Haddish, to Neil, you're going, okay, the casting process is relatively easy. But we had a partner early on in Lionsgate that was willing they said, we know what you guys are trying to do here, and we get it, and we're going to take this big swing. And, once we had that, that was a challenge, but they sort of got it. So for us, that was surprising. It's an original movie. There's no underlying IP. You could argue that Nick is the IP in this film,
right,
and people have a prior understanding of Nick. But, to do a meta story with an actor playing himself and a young version of himself is sort of a crazy idea. And you think, I'm just happy they took a swing at it.
I've been a big fan of Pedro Pascal for a while. I'm a huge Mandalorian fan. I just mentioned Star Wars, but I don't think I realized how freaking hilarious he was. Like, how did Pedro get on board, and what did he bring to the film?
The way Pedro came on board was, he actually he reached out to us, I think, as we were in the casting process, and he wanted to have lunch with us, and we of course were excited because we were fans. But what we found was that we got there and he said, guys, whether or not I get the part, I don't really care. Obviously I want it, but I just am here because I want to talk about Nick Cage. And like, he is a true fan. And he was just like, this is amazing. Yeah.
He is
totally.
Javi. He is Javi. I'm telling you. And there's a lot of Pedro Pascal in the Javi character, ultimately.
People have asked us, like, were you nervous? And I think we were nervous because it's like, you haven't really seen Pedro do quote unquote comedy before, you know, he's always the tough guys, but it was the combination of the fact that we knew he was a great actor, and then we knew that in his heart, deep in his heart, there was this fanboy love for Nick, and we figured, like, if he just plays that, you know, that sweetness, that puppy dog love, it's gonna work, and so it did.
I love the shrine to Nick Cage that's in there. How were any of those props legit?
No.
Okay.
They weren't. Yeah, we would have. I mean, you have to remember, we made this movie peak pre-vaccine pandemic. We had trouble shipping clothes into the country. So the process of hunting down any of the real props. I mean, we had talked to, I think, a prop master who had the real golden guns, but they were locked in a safe in the US. And at that time, shipping anything like that and getting a permit was so incredibly difficult that we had to give up, and we had to make them all ourselves.
Do you have a favorite reference that made its way into the movie? Like, I love when he's talking about the belt buckle at the end and that little reference. Was there anything that was your favorite?
I like that one too. And that one was one that we were on set, and Nick, I think we overheard Nick actually telling that story about his belt buckle, and it was from his dresser, Jeff. And so we said, hey, would you mind just, and we didn't have a great way into the scene, I remember. And so we just said, Nick, why don't you just tell that story of your belt buckle and your dresser, Jeff? And then I think he added the part about, you know, the reference to the Wicker Man, and oh, not the bees, which was a thing I had really wanted to get in the movie, but you know,
he finally did.
You had to be, yeah.
You know, that's what it's actually like to hang out with Nicolas Cage. That's him. That's his kind of dialogue and his storytelling. And he's sort of charming and fun and funny and self-deprecating and referential in his conversation. And so that's pretty cool.
How strongly do you guys feel about Paddington 2?
Very strongly. I mean, if you're about to tell us that you don't like the film, I will tell you right now, Kevin and I are out.
No, Paddington 2 rocks. It's just that clip actually came out today. That was really funny.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of love for that film. And we said, but like, you know, I think this film is at once a celebration of Nicolas Cage and his catalog of films. And of course, like the diversity of the characters that he plays and performance. But it's also, I think for us, a celebration of making things. Like, we wanted it to have this underlying sense of positivity and like the creation of movies, writing them, making them, but also other films that were inspirational to us. And in Paddington 2, I mean, is this great combination of emotion and comedy. It's kind of a perfect film. And we thought, let's chuck out some references to things we love.
Well, I'm sure you guys had to think about your top 3 when that conversation came up. Tom, what are your top 3?
Okay, this is a difficult question because there are so many and you dig back in. My top 3 are Raising Arizona. It depends on your mood.
These are any movies or just Nick Cage movies?
Any movies.
Oh man.
Any movies. Oh my God. Okay. Number 1, Face Off. I think for me, I'm gonna put Adaptation in there. Okay. Then I'm going to put The Big Lebowski, and then I'm going to put Casablanca.
Oh, wow. Have you ever seen the 2001 snowboarding movie Out Cold that is a remake of Casablanca?
No.
Wait, hold on. No.
That sounds incredible.
Hold on.
It's like my favorite movie. It's one of those like you know, like those like boner 2000s comedies, but it's like a remake of Casablanca. It's Zach Galifianakis in it.
It's called Out Cold. Wait, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. A boner comedy that's like a remake of Casablanca. Kevin, that sounds right up our alley. Weird.
I have a drinking game to it too. I will send it to you. It's like
I think that's the interview we should have. Let's play a drinking game.
Yeah, let's do a rewatch of that.
Yeah, we need to set this up.
Holy,
Please watch it. Please watch
Ow.
it.
I love you.
Kevin, top
All
3.
right, I'm gonna go Fargo. Tom got me thinking about Coen Brothers. Fargo. I love the movie Rushmore, and then I'm gonna go Moonstruck because I have to have some Nick in there, which is my favorite Nick movie too. Is Moonstruck, and one of my parents' movies.
I don't have a boner remake of Moonstruck to recommend, but
That's a whole subgenre of film, boner remakes. Here's
yeah,
your
you know
list.
what I'm
What are
talking
your
about, though, right?
top
It's like,
Oh yeah, I'm watching that tonight. I'm so psyched.
out cold? Oh God, you're gonna see
Yeah.
an announcement. Unbearable
Yeah.
weight. Filmmakers
And
decide to
if you do
remake
play
Out.
drinking games, if you drink anytime one of them wipes out, like, you'll have a great time.
Okay, those are the rules. Okay.
Can you break down the Demi Moore cameo and how that came to be?
Yeah, that was. We knew we wanted it to shift over, and the way we had shot it. We had shot a version of it in Budapest just to cover ourselves in case we couldn't get someone to come in. But when we were back in Los Angeles doing some additional photography, and we were just searching around, we were like, we think someone else who's as kind of as iconic as Nick, like a star from that era that immediately tells you, because the thing shifts in one shot from the movie to the movie made about the movie, you needed to know immediately that you were in a different world. And so a friend of mine knew Demi. We just sent her the script. She read it immediately and said, I am in. I'm doing this. This is hysterical. She just really got what we were trying to do and understand the sort of celebrity critique and all that. And she just said, you know what? I'm in. And the only thing she said was, I would like to wear my own yellow Fendi jumpsuit. And I said, done,
Okay.
You're in.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And her and Nick had known each other for a long time. So it was kind of cool.
She nails it too, because she's like, it's just her read is such a perfect sort of 90s action, slightly, slightly heightened, I would say. It was like, just thank you.
I loved that moment so much because you instantly knew that you were watching the movie of the movie.
Good, yeah, because we struggled with that moment, how to let you know. And we worked with Alex Bickle, who's a colorist who does all Barry Jenkins movies, and he's brilliant. We tried all kinds of different color schemes in that scene too to try to figure out what's the best. And we just said, just put the camera on Demi's face and you know where you are.
Yeah.
We were supposed to have like it was supposed to be big blue sky, like Michael Bay, and we got there and we were like, okay, big blue sky, we're in Pasadena, it's great. And then there was a forest fire that happened.
Oh no.
And like within an hour, yeah, it was just like grayed out.
Waves, yeah.
Would you guys consider like a similar project with another actor or like a sequel to this movie or something like that?
Are you talking about the Unbearaverse?
The Unbearable,
Yes.
yeah.
I think
we have definitely explored it. Yeah, I mean, it's impossible not to when you start going through the names and the possibilities. Somebody just threw out Meryl Streep to do a movie about where Meryl Streep plays Meryl Streep, which is the best idea I've heard in a while, because I'm curious.
That's a good
we
one.
also have a crazy idea about Nick filming National Treasure 3. And he believes that the treasure map is real and goes to John Voight and says, forget this. I'm talking about generational wealth. We should just find this. And they take the treasure map and they find themselves basically in a National Treasure-like situation where he has to channel his character from National Treasure in order to get himself out and save his family. And we would call it The Unbearable Weight of National Treasure. And it would be a Lionsgate Disney crossover. And we're not sure if Disney's up for this, but if you're listening, Disney, please give us the rights.